What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to YGOPD, your Yu-Gi-Oh! Professional Development, and today I am back with more of the Phantom Knight adventure that was requested. A few people had been asking to see combo videos, a little bit more on how the full Armored XYZ package works, and just a few test hands. I'm a bit backlogged on some of the combos and test hands that I've mentioned for other videos, but I wanted to go ahead and just do this back-to-back and then do a little bit of a better job including some of those in the main videos anyway, which might make things a little bit easier moving forward. So I'm going to hop into that. I will do a bunch of sub shout outs on the next video next week. Apologies if the audio sounds weird or if you see my laptop or anything like that in the background. I am messing with a few settings. I've gotten a new desk and some other equipment over the past couple of weeks and would like to try to set up a face cam and doing some of that extra stuff as well to make things cleaner. I've been doing some testing and by doing that I have probably screwed up a setting or two. So if things seem weird, just be a little forgiving for just a week or two until I get that figured out. But with all that said, I'll go ahead and hop straight into the combos. Okay, starting off with the full Armored XYZ combo, I want to explain just again a little bit more about what that does, as well as just how you do it. I wanted to leave the Phantom Knight stuff out of this just to more so explain the engine. The way you get to it is any 2 level 3s or by having a rank 3 on board with no materials. There's a couple different ways you can do that. One of the people in the comments also pointed that out. I didn't really think about that, but I'll showcase both ways really quickly of how this works. Typically, again, you are doing this on your turn 1. If you're going second, you're not really doing this. You're typically just trying to climb into Zeus instead. But you make 2 level 3s. Any can be fine. You could normally Enchantress, Special Tracker. However you do it, you get to 2 level 3s. You summon the Armor XYZ Torpedo. This has an effect where it detaches 2 materials as cost to then draw you a card. So we're getting a blank there. And then after that, you can just simply, quote unquote, rank up or legally XYZ summon the XYZ Armored Fortress just by using a generic rank 3 or 4 as material. That is its clause. And that can be any rank 3 or 4. Could be Raider's Knight, could be the Break Sword, could be Levier. Any of those you're playing legally works. It has the effect where you can detach a material as cost. I'll just put this over here. And you can then search any Armor XYZ cards from your deck to your hand up to the number you detach. So you specifically want to have this at 0 materials, and you specifically want to be able to detach as many as it has. So typically it's always going to be 1. Our graveyard's a little bit right here off screen. You have the draw for the blank, and then you're just typically searching the trap. Again, the bare minimum package in the deck is going to be the 3 extra deck monsters plus the main deck trap or the Garnet full Armored XYZ. This card essentially, the way people kind of rationalize it is just to do a generic rank up. However, it just lets you target an XYZ monster you control as cost and then XYZ summon using materials on the field. So basically, it just lets you make any legal XYZ summon. Is the easiest way I could say that. An example could be that your opponent randomly decides to crash into a Levier. You could then chain this to go ahead and just throw a Zeus right on top of it if you really, really wanted. This doesn't even have to be used for the Armored XYZ package. It lets you use anything. The other way you could do it is if your opponent, say for Rescue Ace, summons something like Link Karibo and then makes Little Knight and banishes something you control and then attempts to summon Turbulence, you could go ahead and activate full Armor XYZ to throw a Typhon on there to prevent the Turbulence from using its effect because they summon 2 from the extra deck. It really just lets you make any legal XYZ, which is really, really cool. It does not come up a ton. Zeus and Typhon are the most obvious choices, but normally you're doing the Armored XYZ package. So what you would do is on your opponent's turn after you've made this, search this and ensure that this has no materials. You will activate this on your opponent's turn to summon the full Armored Dark Knight Lancer. This will go to the graveyard. This has a couple of effects, gains 300 attack for each material on it, so that's also really important to just be able to rank up and keep slapping bigger and bigger guys on top of them to get this quite big, so that's really nice. The secondary effect is if a card becomes equipped to this in any way, you can non-targeting attach an opponent's monster to this as material. So the primary way you're going to be doing that is through the Armored XYZ trap in the grave, I'll talk about in a minute, but the proactive way you could do it would be searching a card like Dracoback and just hard equipping it to this, since you can just still equip it to anything. Obviously it's not getting the bonus effect, but does still trigger the Dark Knight Lancer. So that is just something to note. But the main way you're doing it is you'll summon this on your opponent's turn when you have something on their field that you want to attach. You will banish the Armored Xyz as cost, and then you can essentially quick equip any Xyz in your grave. Again, it does not have to be the armored stuff to Armor Lancer, so you don't have to get hard stuck on using these to make it. And then there's a couple things that happens. Obviously, when this equips, you can use the the full armored Dark Knight Lancer to non-targeting attach something, and then this gets a lot of bonuses. I might not get it exactly right, but the trap, once you banish it and then equip something, the first time it would be destroyed, you can get rid of the equipped thing instead. It prevents it from being targeted. The thing that's equipped gives it the attack of the monster that it's equipped to, so it gains the 2500 from the Armor Xyz torpedo. It's just essentially crazy because you get a 2500 boost plus non-targeting plus protection from destruction once on top of the steel for Dark Knight Lancer. So that's kind of how the engine works in a nutshell on just making it itself. You're getting a draw to pay for itself. You're getting a search. You're getting an interrupt. It's all really powerful. And then you just have some versatility to make different things. Typically, the different things are going to be either Zeus or Typhon, depending on how you want to use it. And again, like I said, this does not have to deal with just the Armored Xyz package. So a lot of questions that I've been wrestling with are, what the heck do you do if you hard open it? So one way you could simply do that is by making a card like Breaksword and then popping it with Rusty. It goes to the graveyard. Bring this back through Fogblade, any of the wings, any of your Phantom Knight traps in the grave, and then you can still just hard overlay this, detach, and then search, or you could just save this and use it as a bait to get it ran into, and again make Zeus or different things like that. There's still kind of ways to play around it. It's never ideal, of course, but this still is just neat, and there's other ways to use it. I'm still kind of exploring other applications. If you have other ideas, let me know. I'm really, really open to it. So that's the bare minimum of how just the general combo works with the Armored Xyz stuff and how it plays. I think any other combos are going to be weird because Phantom Knight, obviously there's no one card combo. It's a lot of 2 cards and it's 2 different level 3s, and depending on what you have, it changes. So I think the easiest way from here would be to showcase a couple test hands. Okay, we're giving this a bit of a time to shuffle. Hopefully we'll showcase a basic combo that utilizes the Phantom Knight stuff into the Armored Xyz stuff, ideally. There's a few different ways you can kind of do it, but we'll see what happens here. So we give this a quick cut. We have a Boots, a Torn Scales, a Fenrir, another Boots, and a Rhoda. This is fine, a little bit too redundant for my taste, but again, we're just going to play this as if there's no interruptions here. The Fenrir actually kind of throws things off because you do want zones, but we'll go ahead and play with it just to kind of showcase some stuff. We'll go ahead and start with the Fenrir. We'll get a Fenrir just to get that out of the way. And then I think from there, what we'll go ahead and do is use a Rhoda. And I think we'll go ahead and search. I think an Ancient Cloak is fine here. Eventually, I think my goal will be to dump that, or special that out of hand with Greaves. Go ahead and do that. And then from here, we can just normal the Torn Scales, special the Boots, link those 2 off, and just go directly into Cherubini. That's almost always going to be your main starting play. From there, Cherubini is going to get our adventure package online by dumping Enchantress, and then we'll banish the Enchantress to go ahead and search a copy of Right. We'll use the Right and go ahead and get our Fateful, as well as our token. We'll go ahead and throw that here. It's important to put it here because if you put Griffin or something else like that, Anima can take that. Anima needs effect monsters to take. So we're just putting the token there to help mitigate that. From there, what we'll do is we'll use the Fateful effect to add the Draco back from our deck to our hand. And then we'll go ahead and then use the Fateful to search a copy of Griffin Rider. And then I believe I mentioned we searched with Fenrir. Yeah, we did. It's already in our hand. And then discard doesn't really matter here. I'm going to keep the names just for the sake of keeping the names. You could go ahead and discard a second Boots as like follow-up and keep the Draco back. Actually, I'll just go ahead and do that. I think that's fine. I just want to keep 1 in hand for Greaves at the moment. We'll go ahead and special Griffin here directly under the Cherubini just to give ourselves a little bit more play with zones. From there, what we can go ahead and do is we can go ahead and banish Boots to search a trap. The main trap I'm going to do is Shade. Again, with the Horus engine, you don't really use Shade because Emseti becomes that 3rd dark because the other 2 are either going to be made for Zombie Vampire or Photon Lord or whatever. But here we kind of use Shade for that purpose. We'll activate Shade, summon Shade, and then go ahead and link these 2 off to make a copy of Rusty. Again, so far pretty standard stuff here. And now we could also, if we want to make sure that we're really catching things, we could have gone ahead and summoned the Torn Scales back, which I guess I'll just say that we did back when we banished this to search shade, just for the heck of it, just to say why not. And then we can go ahead and dump quite a few things here. And I'm just thinking the best way to do it, I would like to cycle through at least 2 different rank 3s here. I would like to get a break sword engrave and then still be able to do the Armored Exceeds package, which I think we have some room to do. We'll start with the Torn Scales. We'll go ahead and pitch, and we'll go ahead and dump just a Greaves, so that way we know we're going to at least get 1 Reborn back. That's our first 3. And then I think the second one will be off of Rusty. We'll use Rusty to go ahead and we'll dump a Wings, I think, here. And then we will, or no, sorry, Rusty, I believe, has to be a monster. So I think we'll switch that around. We'll say that we dump the Wings off of the Torn Scales, and then we'll dump the Greaves off the Rusty. Yeah, I think that's fine for now. And then we'll go ahead and set a Fog Blade. Again, apologies if I'm stumbling through this just a little bit. I'm not super versed in this yet. So we set the Fog Blade. I'll keep this face up just so we can see it. And then we have a little bit of room to play here. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and start by banishing Greaves to go ahead and special the Ancient Cloak from the hand. I think that was probably not the best move, only because I don't think we have a way to get what we're searching out of our hand, because eventually I think what we really wanted was to have the gloves engraved. So I think we're just going to have to be okay with just doing the Armored Exceeds package here, which is still fine. You can still do that. I'm just debating here to see if there's anything else I could do differently. I don't want to rewind too much just for the sake of, again, this is just a basic test hand, right? We're learning, we're figuring out the deck. I think what we'll do is for now, we'll just go ahead, overlay these 2, and we're going to just make, let's see, we could make break sword. Actually, yeah, we can kind of do both. We'll do it a little bit differently, actually. And this is a good example, I think, of what one of the commenters brought up, is we'll make the break sword. We'll go ahead and use Rusty to pop it. And then we are locked into darks if we use the Rusty or the break sword reborn effect, which you could do, but because I want the Armored Exceeds package, I'm not going to do that just yet. What I am going to do, though, is I'm going to banish the Wings to special back the break sword. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go ahead and go into the Armored Exceeds package. So we're going to go ahead and summon the Fortress. This is kind of weird because you're not getting the best of both worlds here. But again, this is a good way, I think, to showcase how the lines can bridge into each other. So then what we'll do is we'll search the copy of full Armored Exceeds. The only difference here is you could have gotten an extra draw, which probably would have been ideal since we don't have the second Phantom Knight Trap, the other Fog Blade in here, to still bring back the break sword to get a second pop off Rusty. So that's just probably something to note, but at the very least, I'm glad this showcases how you can still use break sword to get to this line if you really, really want. So, and then we can go ahead and set the full Armored Exceeds, and that's, you know, pretty much it. This is a very basic example here. We have the Adventure Engine as 1 negate for the Griffin. We have the Armored Exceeds Fortress that's going to go on our opponent's turn into Darkray Lancer. That's going to be a Snatch Steal, so that's 2 interruptions. Fogblade is 3 and Fenrir is 4, so nothing too spectacular here, but something cool, again, to showcase the blend of the 2 engines. I'll do one more quick test hand here, and then I think we can go ahead and wrap it up. Okay, shuffling this up for our last test hand here. That last one, I think, gave a good example of kind of how the engines blend, but also how I'm kind of still learning the deck and understanding it. So we have Enchantress, Greaves, E-Telly, Torn Scales, and E-Telly. This is actually insane. Having the just both E-Tellys live is really, really cool. So I think as long as I do this right, we should be able to do pretty much anything we want. So we'll just get the Adventure Engine stuff out of the way first, make it really simple, get the right, activate the right, go ahead and get a Fateful Adventure as well as our Adventure token on board. And then from here, we can do a few different things. Torn Scales, I think, is always still going to be a pretty easy normal summon. I'm debating if we really actually want to do Torn Scales or we want to do Greaves. Either way, we're not going to have a clean discard for everything. I think we'll actually just normal the Greaves here to get some more value out of the Torn Scales discard potentially. Yeah, we'll just try it and see what happens, right? We'll trigger the Fateful. Go ahead and get a copy of the Draco back, and then we'll trigger Fateful again to go ahead and add a copy of our Griffin Rider. And then I think I'm going to go ahead and discard Torn Scales here. As much as I wanted to special it off Greaves, we can just do that later, I feel. And then we'll go ahead and special the Griffin. And we'll just go ahead and burn an E-Telly here. Kind of helping us play around Ash in a few ways. Obviously, they would have ashed well before now. But again, if they decide to randomly ash one E-Telly thinking we have no extenders left, and having the second one is really nice. So we'll get Wielder or Tracker. Again, doesn't matter which one you do. We'll go ahead and get those two. And again, just go ahead and go straight into Cherubini. And now we can go ahead and use Cherubini. I still think the move is going to be dumping the Silent Boots no matter what, because that gets us into Rusty, which just lets us play more and just adds more interruption to our end board. So we'll go ahead and banish the Boots to go ahead and get a copy of Shade Brigadine to our hand. And then from there, that will trigger the Torn Scales in the new chain. Go ahead, excuse me, and bring that out. We'll go ahead and use Shade, get rid of Shade and the Cherubini for a copy of Rusty Bardiche. So we'll go ahead and do that. And now we got to be very, very thoughtful about how we do this here, because we definitely have enough to do both lines of Xyz packages through both the Break Sword as well as the Armored Xyz stuff. So I think first things first is we can go ahead and use Rusty, and we're just going to go ahead and I think dump Ancient Cloak here and set a Fog Blade. I think there's nothing too crazy with that. I think that makes the most sense. And then we've not used Torn Scales yet, so we can go ahead and use Torn Scales, discard the Draco back, and then we're going to dump, I think we kind of want Ragged Gloves here because it's also a name just plus an extra dump if we really, really want. So I think I'm okay with that. So we're going to dump the gloves here. And then what we'll do from here is, again, I'm trying to save the emergency teleport for as late as I can, just because I want to make sure I'm focusing on the Phantom Knight stuff as much as possible and not using it too much as a crutch. So we'll go ahead and banish the Ancient Cloak, and then we'll get a copy of, it can't be Ancient Cloak, obviously it has to be a different name. I think we'll just go ahead and get another Boots. I think I'm fine with that. And then what we can go ahead and do here is we can just special the Boots. We've already used the Boots special, I believe. I could be wrong, but if we have not, I'm assuming we have, we'll go ahead and banish it off of the Stained Greaves to summon, and we're going to keep it level 3, of course. And then from here, I would like to, again, find a way to do both. Obviously, the Draco back does re-equip to the token. And I think there's a way, thankfully more so to the E-Telly. So what we're going to do is we're going to overlay these two, and we're going to summon the Break Sword specifically under one of Rusty's zones, because that's what guarantees it to be popped. Summon that, it gets popped, and we're not going to trigger the Break Sword to Reborn. We're just going to leave that in Grave as another source of follow-up. And then from there, what we can go ahead and do is we're going to, we'll just do it this way. We'll go ahead and banish the gloves, and we'll go ahead and dump a Wings. We just need another Reborn. That's truly all that matters in this case. So we're going to dump the Reborn through Wings. We can banish the Wings to go ahead and special back a copy of Torn Scales, or any name, doesn't really matter here. We'll go ahead and do the E-Telly, and then we'll get a copy of the other one, Psychic Tracker. And then the important thing here is we just don't draw the trap. There's still ways we can play it, but we're just going to pretend that we're not drawing that, and we're going to believe that that's going to happen. So we'll overlay these two for the Armored Xyz. Again, we did not use the Break Sword Reborn, so we're not locked into dark. The Reborn part is the only thing that locks us into dark. We detach two, and then we go ahead and draw a card. It's funny. What did I say? For this purpose, right, we're going to pretend that we don't hit that. So we're going to hit a dead E-Telly. That's fine. That's fair enough in this situation, right? So we don't draw the trap. And then from there, what we do is we just overlay the 5 on top here to go ahead and then detach and search the trap. Of course, the other way you could do it is if you hard draw the trap, you could just set it, use it for Zeus or something else, right? Get Break Sword to come back, do different things like that. You could just summon a different Dark Xyz on top, like Raider's Knight or something, whatever, or not necessarily Raider's Knight, but you could just do a different Xyz, Typhon, whatever, something that then triggers Rusty as a pop. That's another way you could do it, right? And then we'll just set and then we can pass, and on our opponent's turn, we'll go ahead and flip the trap. So then we have a few different pieces of interruption here. We obviously have a blank. This could be anything, could be another droplet, could be a hand trap, could be a talents, could be whatever. But the main thing is that's going to be a blank that we have the ability to use. So we have one interruption in the form of the Dark Armored Knight Lancer. This is all one interruption here. Again, 2 through Fogblade, 3 through the Wandering Griffin Rider, and as long as we're making sure we don't necessarily attach what we Fogblade with to the Dark Lancer and make sure they send it off through a Link Summon or a Synchro or whatever, this goes in Grave, and then it's an easy banish to go ahead, bring back the Break Sword, and then get another pop. So that's the basic idea of the deck. I still think there's a lot I'm learning. I'm sure as you saw this, if you're an experienced Phantom Knight player, you probably cringed at a time or two as I'm fumbling through some of the rank 3 stuff. But again, I'm still learning. I really do love this deck. I think it's really, really cool. It's really fun, and it's just different. So if you want to play Phantom Knight right now, but you don't feel like shelling out for Horus, pay the $5 and try the Armored Xyz package. I think it's really cool. There's a lot of value to it. It's just different. It's not people things they don't expect. They don't read it. And worst case, it's really hard to out a like 6K towers that's unaffected, protected from destruction, like all that kind of stuff is really wild. So thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Later.